Hi guys, it is
Hi.
Celia.
And Kitty Cat. And today we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yes. Hi, guys. I'm Sienna Sinclaire, and I'm known as the Naughty Girl of Los Angeles and also a naughty expert in all things naughty.
Awesome. How do you define your naughtiness? Let's get into all the amazing things that you do, Sienna.
Yeah, so my business is based on all things naughty, from hosting parties to naughty travel books. And also I have a clothing line. And some of the things I'm wearing. And my clothing line is all about making women feel sexier and naughty if they want to be.
I always joke, guys like to be dirty and girls like to be naughty.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It's like our experience of what it is to push the boundaries.
Yeah, naughty can mean many things for many people. And I always tell people that naughtiness is not a competition and we all have our own naughty levels. So don't feel bad if you're a little bit more on the, tame side, and don't feel bad or shame anyone who's on the more naughty side either.
Right. All naughty lives matter, so to speak.
Exactly, we do.
So how did you get into the world of naughtiness? What's your sexy origin story?
Oh gosh, started so many moons ago. I was a young 20-year-old kid and so full of life and living in London. And I worked for a magazine, and every weekend I would travel all over Europe and I would go on tours. And in Europe, they're a little bit more open about the naughty side.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I would go on a tour, they would always explain the naughty side of something, of how a city, from its naughty past came to be. And that always fascinated me and excited me more than just, seeing the Eiffel Tower. Even when I go on trips today or, go on tours, I know that there's a naughty past to it. So I always ask the historian, like, hey, you don't need to tell everybody else, but tell me something naughty about this tour. And it just started from there, just writing blogs, back in the early 2000s. And I would travel all over Europe and just write my naughty experiences. And I realized that people were really interested in it. So it kind of started from a blog from a long time ago.
What are like some fun naughty Europe stories? Like what is something that you're like, oh, in Paris you would never know this, but blah 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 exists?
Well, in Paris, there's a lot of unknowns, and there's a girl in Paris that wrote this book before mine. It's kind of how I got the idea, but she doesn't write them anymore. I mean, we all get inspiration from people, but she wrote guides. She did tours, and she did these naughty tours of Paris. And she also wrote a book on naughty things to do in Paris. So, so people wouldn't know about the book, for one. And second, I'm not sure if she still does the tours, but you could probably contact her. But there's also a guy that I found out from her book that I took the tour. You can meet him at the Louvre. It's a private tour, and he'll take you on like a private tour of the Louvre and learn all about the naughty art history. And I thought that was really cool. Again, we all have our own levels of naughtiness, and if that's just something that you are an art lover, and most art in the past has naughtiness to it. And also they're just underground brothels, and I don't know, I just had a lot of fun over there. And in the brothels, I mean, it was a lot of fun because you never know who you're going to meet. I was at this really high-end one called Les Chandelles, and I ended up running into this really pretty girl that was attracted to me, and we got to talking, and come to find out they're Arabic, so she's saving herself for her future husband that she was there with, but he could do whatever he wanted, but she couldn't. So needless to say, I couldn't do much with her because she wasn't married yet. She's like, no, you can make out with me, but no penetration. Like, okay, but I'm like, he can do stuff to me, whatever, She's like, I just have to do that because I have to satisfy him until we get married. Just interesting people.
Yeah, I guess that's a very blunt way to look at it. You know what I mean?
The thing about it is I was more impressed with her because she was very open for allowing that. Most women allow it, but they turn a blind eye to it because that's what the guy does. But she's like, you know what? I'm out with him. We're having fun. So I found her to be very open for her culture.
Nice.
I was impressed with her.
Nice. And did you have you always lived in LA? Did you make LA your base? How did you end up? Because you've been in LA for quite a long time now, correct?
Yeah, I've been in LA 15 years. Right now I'm in San Francisco. This is my San Francisco home.
Oh, nice.
So,
I'm in the Bay Area too right now.
Oh, hey. They're like neighbors.
Hi.
For all I know, you're like right there. Hey. I do have a neighbor that like stares into my window. So if you see me looking off sometimes, like I can see him over there. One time I was making a workout video and I'm in a bikini and he literally was just standing by his window with coffee in hand, just standing there drinking. So I was like, whatever, this is what I do.
It's like Friends. Remember how they have the naked guy on Friends?
Oh, that's right. So I'm the naked guy. I'm that guy now.
I was about to say there's worse neighbors to have. I live in like a condo community with really like older people. I don't think I want to see any of them doing exercise videos. So
well, also, it doesn't matter if you're old or younger. The Seinfeld episode of I think Never Naked or something, where he dates a girl and she's young, but she's bending over to fix the bike naked. And Seinfeld's like, I don't care how hot you are. Nobody looks good doing things naked. It's kind of true.
I remember I read David Sedaris in one of his books. He went to a nudist colony for like an article, and he said one of the funniest things was everybody wore one item. So it was like they weren't fully naked. They would have like a belt, or they'd have socks. And he's like,
you have to like keep your lips. Like I have this thing on my website. It's this belt. It's just sexy little cute belt for swinger parties, and it has pockets. Because when you do go to swinger parties and you get naked, girls still like to put their lipstick on, powder, condoms, lube. So I promote it as, your swinger belt.
Yeah. We interviewed a long time ago, Melissa Wagner, a makeup artist, and there's some line of lipstick that came out from fetish parties because people would put on their red lipstick and they would, it wouldn't stay. So they wanted something that you could give like multiple blowjobs on and it would stay for hours.
I mean, I think that's been around for a while.
Yeah.
I just wear lip gloss. I just wear nude. So if it comes off, it doesn't matter.
Oh, that's so and then you like do your eyes to match it so that like you know.
Red eyes?
No. You know how like you balance it out. So usually lips and so then like as it fades off, you're okay.
Yeah, I'm a nude lipstick girl because I've been known to eat my lipstick. I constantly lick my lips, or just I'm doing something. So I just decided nude's the best for me.
Mm-hmm. Nice. No, you not during Corona, of course, but you travel a lot. Like you always seem to be going around exploring places. And do you do tours with your company, or is it more you're just having fun playing around the world?
No, I do tours. I've done tours in other cities, just depending on, like I've written 5 books. So the books that I wrote, I did tours on San Francisco and San Diego. Mm-hmm. I just went down there and did like a little fun brothel walking tour around town. Are there not really something that I was paying for? It was more of a book promotion that I was doing. But I also I offer tours. Like if you buy the San Diego ebook, then you'll get the walking tour of San Diego. Oh. But in LA, I do offer a tour. I offer not a walking tour because LA is not really meant for walking, but I offer a bus tour. So we get on like 30 people. We get on a party bus, and it comes with a stripper pole, and people can do whatever they want on that bus while we're on it. And there's been stuff on it, But I don't kiss and tell. You have to come to my parties to experience it. And we stop at 5 stops, so we'll do a dungeon just to kind of 1 hour at each stop. So you get to meet a mistress and kind of just talk to her, and she'll go over things in her dungeon. And then we're there for an hour, so you can do whatever you want to do. And then we get back on the bus, and we'll do 1 hour historical downtown tour where we do get off and stop at places that are no longer there, but we visit old places in LA that are, brothels and that they're no longer there, but it's just fun. There are some people who really like that part of the tour. And then we'll go to a sexy bar for an hour that kind of, gets the juice. We usually do that at the very end before we hit the swingers club. And then we do a sex toy store. So people can pick up either some sexy lingerie and get discounts or, whatever they need for the swinger club. And, strip club. Yeah. We usually start at a strip club where we'll meet there and have drinks and grab some food before we get on the bus. And then we end the night at a swingers club, and people, either can leave if they choose not to go in a swingers club, or most people come. And then after that, the bus leaves and you're on your own.
Nice.
So you can stay as long as you want.
You can just enjoy the night as you will.
Exactly. There's no rush. It's not like an hour. It kind of be hard to have fun at a swingers club. And it's like, okay, guys, you're here for an hour.
Time to go.
Get on it. Get it. Do it now.
Go.
Yeah, exactly.
Question:
So
do you get most? Oh, sorry. Do you get mostly couples or do you get mostly singles for these?
My events vary. I'm the only one that allows single guys, and I mean that in the sense that I allow single men because I kind of feel sorry for them in a way, because there's so many more men in the world that want to do naughty things than women. And I believe, just being equal, and I don't think that's fair. I wish more naughty women would step up and want to do things. So I don't believe in leaving them out, and I don't find single men creepy. A lot of people are like, oh, single men are creepy. Women can be creepy. Men can be creepy. And yes, men can ruin it for the single men, unfortunately. So the men who do come to my groups, they only get allowed to come in if a single girl buys a ticket. And I do have a lot of single girls that will buy tickets. And also on my group, there's this thing that they've started where they kind of know the rules. A girl will ask, like, hey, guys, I'm interested. And then the guy will buy a couple's ticket and they'll go together. So they're technically not couples, but I do pair people up, not meaning dating, but just, if you're a single girl who buys a ticket, a guy can buy a ticket. And that's how the guys get in. And once they're in, there's strict policies against that. Just because, but there's also strict policies against women too. I don't, if women want to be equal as men, they need to act like it too.
What are some of the policies that are expected at these events? Like, what's just common courtesy for one of your parties?
Well, common courtesy is just don't touch somebody. And for me, I feel like women have the most problem with this rule.
Yes.
Because women feel as if, because they're a woman, and this is not just parties. I go out a lot in San Francisco and all over the world. And I have a problem with women touching me that I don't know in nightclubs, just walking up to me and grabbing my ass. Because to them, grabbing my ass is a show that I'm beautiful and they're complimenting me. But that's not a compliment. If some guy came up to you and did that to you, that wouldn't be. And he's like, but hold on, I think you're hot. That's why I grabbed your ass. I can't tell you how many women I've had come up to me, but you're hot. I just thought you're hot, so I grabbed your ass. It's not okay to do that. So I absolutely do not allow that at my events.
I completely understand what you're talking about. As someone who's danced on and off for strip clubs for like 5 years, like the women, when they come in, and I always say it's because the guys know the rules because they've done it enough, and the girls will do things like they're like, I remember once, and it was a very nice bachelorette party, and this woman like started to put her hand in my vagina, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, on stage, she thought this was an acceptable thing.
Women just think they can get away with a lot more because they're women, but it's not okay. I just don't agree with that at all, and it really angers me and upsets me. And it's, you do need to stand up for yourself, especially at swingers club. I hear this all the time. The men will encourage their women, like, hey, sweetie, go up and, touch her while she's making out with her boyfriend or whatever. And a girl will come up behind me and start rubbing my ass. And I look behind her and I'm like, I'm sorry, did you ask me permission to touch me? And they just think in their head, oh, women just think they can get away with a lot of stuff, and they'll push the buttons when they go out. We just created a society where women get away with a lot of stuff, like women get free drinks. Women, don't have dress codes. So women just expect a lot more. I'll just say that.
It's very interesting. And I really do feel like it's just that, like, a lot of times men have been conditioned where women haven't. So like when they get in these situations, they think it's like all holds barred because they're like, oh, I can go hog wild. I can be as naughty as possible without understanding there's permission.
Well, and also society makes it seem like it's cool, women touching women's boobs, like, women fighting, that's sexy. So they know that society sees that. So they're like, oh, it's okay. But so it's not okay, my parties.
If you aren't doing your parties right now, what are you focused on? I imagine your business has shifted slightly with COVID.
Yeah, it's definitely shifted. I've been focusing a lot more on my clothing line, and that's been really successful during COVID, just people wanting to buy and spend. And when they opened LA up for the short 2-week span, I just got lucky and I happened to have my pop-up store during that time for my clothing line, and it was super successful. You know, everyone had a time slot that you came to, you know, to kind of keep. But I have a big house in LA, so it was very easy to keep people, you know, distance. And people just came out. You know, I think there was 5 people per hour, and just people just had a really good time. And I've been doing more online videos, and then I also did a nude yoga class where, you know, it was just 10 people. And they came over, and people came with their mask on, and, you know, people spaced out the yoga mats, and it was fun. It's just more a lot smaller now. And I do also do Zoom parties online. So, and while I did the live yoga class, I also did live Zoom. So people
I want to hear about this. Tell me about it.
What's a live Zoom party?
Oh, it's nothing naughty. Well, I did test it the other day because I was trying to find out if you could be naked on Zoom. And they said yes, meaning it's not allowed, but they're not going to catch you, especially if it's private.
Are they watching everything on Zoom? Or is there like a filter?
No, they're not watching everything on Zoom. There's too much to watch. Yeah. They say as long as it's not being recorded, you're fine, because then it goes into their, you know, system. And I heard from all kinds of people that people are doing swinger parties and sex parties on Zoom. So you just want to keep it private. But I did a nude yoga class and it was fine. I'm not really going to do a sex party on Zoom because I don't really care to do that stuff. And you don't know who's recording you.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like that's just safe that way.
And it's just different. I mean, like, you know.
I can masturbate at home, no problem.
Yeah.
Unless, if I'm going to masturbate on the Zoom, have someone pay me.
Right.
So what's like what are your favorite naughty cities? I know you've done the books, like the 3 in California. Where are the other 2?
There's 5 books.
There's 5, and you said San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles.
Yeah, and then Vegas, and then Vancouver.
So like, what are your like favorite places in those cities, or like what's a place that you're like, this is the best time ever? You know, I love going.
Well, the unfortunate thing is I don't know what's going to be around anymore.
I know, it's so true.
So I have ebooks that people buy, but I'm kind of encouraging people not to buy them right now because 1, you can't use them. And 2nd, I'm going to have to go and look at everything again because the first things are going to go are going to be the little people, you know, the burlesque things, the sex clubs. So, yeah. But let me think. San Francisco, I do like the walking tour that they offer here. Down, I'm not really good with what is around here in San Francisco, but Maiden Lane.
Maiden Lane?
Yeah, it's where Nike is, and it's a square.
Okay.
It's a main square. It's where all the high-end shops are, but there's this little lane called Maiden Lane, and it has tons of history. I just really like the historical part of each of a city because people don't realize this, but a town or a city is always based on something naughty. That's how a city was developed. So even when I write the books, I write a historical side. So Vegas has the history and LA has a history, and so does San Diego, of how the city started. And I believe that without the naughtiness, you know, the city wouldn't be what it is today.
I agree. You know, I'm visiting my family in the Bay Area right now, and my mom and my aunt live in Benicia, which is East Bay. It's like one of the points, and it's an adorable little main street. Like they don't have any chains, and like, but every building on the block, if it's 2 stories, started out as a brothel.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Especially if it was 2 stories, because that's where all the bedrooms are located.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So like my adorable little almost 70-year-old mom was like, if you see those buildings, like they were brothels back in the day.
Well, at least she knows her history.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of the more popular things as we tour the country with pinups. We go to super small town America, and they'll be like, this whole street was the whorehouses. And you're like, oh.
Well, if you take any downtown, old historical downtown Main Street, it's where all the brothels were, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where, I mean, downtown LA was that way too, where the train station is. And they unearthed a lot of just old historical things from brothels. It was amazing what they found, especially when they dug under the train station.
especially with California, because with the expansion, it's like Westworld, right? So it was like Old West, and you could get away with a lot more. You didn't have the Puritan morals of like Massachusetts like bearing down on you. So they're like, okay, we're going to build a lot of brothels when we start this area of
it wasn't
California.
until the wives moved in, because the men would always go first to, you're not going to bring your whole family down there, and the prostitutes would come down and make their money, and then the wives would come 5-10 years later when they said it was safe, and I made money and I built a home here, and that's when it all started, because the wives didn't like it.
Seems to be non-changing with history.
Yeah, the wives never like it. No. Sometimes now the wives are kind of okay with it.
If you get the right kind of wife,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Do you find that being in the naughty world has affected your relationships?
With who?
Like dating wise?
Dating wise, and anyone really. Yeah.
No, I'm one of those people that if you don't like something I do, then I don't care whether you're family or not. So if you're family and you don't like what I do, then no big deal. I don't really care. But luckily my parents don't mind at all what I do. Mm-hmm. And they encourage it. My mom has even been helpful with some things, helping me plan. She's even attended some of my naughty parties, which I think is a little odd. But just because if you know my mom, it would just seem odd. She tries to be cool, but and then my dad would never attend one of my naughty parties, but he doesn't care what I do. And then if it's anybody else, that's just their own problem. As far as relationships with friends or people I date, again, if it's a friend that doesn't like what I do, they just can go their own way. I don't have time for that. And again, if it's a guy, I think that the great thing about dating is, and also with what you do, it helps to weed people out. That's why I don't understand why people get upset because someone doesn't like them. They just weren't right for you. Right. Like if they don't like what I do, then that just weeds that person out until I find the right person. And for me, I have found the right person. I mean, I've dated a lot of people in my life, and some men think they can handle me, but men always think they can change you, just like women think the same thing. Like, oh, she'll change. She'll eventually not want this lifestyle, or it's fun at first, but now let's settle down. And it's like, no, that's not who I was. When you came in here, you knew who I was. Don't try to change me. So you just have to find the right person. And I've been dating someone 15 years. And I don't believe in marriage. Kids are living with anybody. So those are my rules.
Yeah. Do you guys live in the same city, or
Well, he lives in Palo Alto.
Okay.
And I live in San Francisco, but I also live in LA. So
I personally,
yes
I personally think that like the secret to like any relationship is time apart. Because it's like you like them, and then what happens is the longer you're with them, you start to focus on what you don't like about them. And when you go away and you come back, you're like, oh, I like you again. Like,
Yeah. I get it that people, when they first meet someone, the lust, the bonding chemicals that go through your brain, Mother Nature working its way, trying to get you to bond and to mate. But people see it as love. But I get that, you want to spend all your time together, because Mother Nature wants to work its course. But me, I'm always a person that's like, I need my time apart. But then eventually you get tired and over those lust feelings, and then you got to learn how to turn them into love and make it long lasting. Yeah. So it works for me. I just think people need time apart. I don't understand people who want to see people all the time. And I definitely don't. And that applies to everybody in my life, family, friends. But then again, we're all different in our own way. And this is just my personality.
Yeah. Now, I know from following you on Facebook that you're very open about like your age, which I love, because I feel like when people get older, they start to get a little, I'm 40, I'm turning 41 next week. And it's like people start to get a like cagey. And like you did, but like, and I am so grateful for J-Lo and Shakira for the Super Bowl this year to show that like people can be like rocking it in their 40s and 50s and still be sexy.
Well, I don't think you really need the Super Bowl to see that.
No, but like, I mean, I know
they were always amazing.
Yeah, always. But like to me, like J-Lo just gets better with age, in my opinion. Like I feel like she's so confident right now, and she knows who she is. Do you feel there is a big difference between you when you first started in the sexy world and someone who's been in it for a while now, or like, are you still exactly the person you were?
Well, I am the person who I was when I was younger. You know, I'm still me.
Right.
But just like you have your base of who you are and you build on it. You know, we're always building. I mean, I think it would be sad if I was the same person, the exact same person I was in high school and I hadn't grown, you know, and experienced things. But I'm still me. When people say, "Oh, you've totally changed from high school," I haven't. I'm still me. I was still that girl. I've just been around the world, and you know, I'm more educated and I'm more worldly, and my fashion has changed. I have better fashion sense. But yeah, I think that you definitely need to change and grow, and that's the same with relationships too. And you know, my business is going to keep growing and getting better, and I don't know where I'll go. Who knows where I'll go? But I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, being an older woman. I do get people who like to make fun of people, you know, like you should get married. You're old. You should be married by now. And it's like, or you're old. You shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, well, people don't think I'm old. I just heard I was 28 the other day. You know, and the age is just a number. It really is, because I don't feel 42.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like it's like I said, I'm 40, and I always feel like I feel like I'm younger than like half the people I know who are like 30. You know, it really is what you're willing to do and how expansive you're willing to be.
Well, I feel like younger people act older than older people because once you get older, you just I always never cared, but you just stop really caring, and you know, we're younger people are like, oh, I got to be this way, I got to do this. Why aren't I this by the time I'm 30? You know, I mean, I hear it from my sister who's 25. It's like, you just need to calm down. You're 25 years old. Like, you're gonna laugh when you hear yourself at 40. Like all the stress you put on yourself. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, just go have fun, travel, quit worrying about whether or not you have a career.
Yeah. Your 20s, you very much feel like you're on a timeline. And as soon as you get past that, you kind of realize that was completely arbitrary and you did it to yourself. You know, I have girls that dance for us that are like 21, 22, freaking about what they're doing for the rest of their life. And I'm like, look, I didn't even start my company till I was 27. Like, you're fine. Like, don't worry.
And even me, I mean, I started doing all my naughty stuff in my 20s, but it's been, 20 years. People look at what I have and go, oh my gosh, you have so much. And people are always comparing and want those things now. But it's like, you have to understand, I'm 42 years old. It took me a long time to get to where I am. And I'm still not 100% where I want to be, because I know that I have a lot of potential and I can get further.
Yeah.
But people just need to learn to slow down and just enjoy life, So.
I also feel like you need to enjoy the mistakes, because the mistakes are like where things happen. Most of the things that I now professionally make money on, I had no idea I would be doing when I was 20. And it's just like you like fall into something and you're like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. Let's see where it goes. And then it becomes a thing. But like when you have plans and you're like, I have to stick to the plan, then like, it's like you're not allowing yourself to kind of explore.
Yeah, it's hard. I have a plan, and I've learned as I've gotten older that my plans are going to change, and I've got to go down different paths sometimes to get to where I need to go. But I've never looked at anything as a mistake that I've done in my life. They're always learning lessons for me. Mm-hmm. Like, you can call them what you want, but to me, it's like, I think a mistake is when you keep doing it over and over again.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Keep dating the same guy over again. That was a mistake.
Right.
Bill and Brad were mistakes. Why do you keep making those mistakes? But we've all dated, a guy that doesn't treat us well. We've all been there, but it's if you keep following that pattern. We've all done something we shouldn't have done, but then you move on.
And they're
learning lessons.
Yeah, they are learning lessons. Like I'm almost more grateful for the guys that I dated that weren't always nice, because it gets you very clear on your boundaries, where you're like, oh, I've done this before. I am not doing this again. I am nipping that in the bud,
Yeah, I got lucky when I was in high school. I think at 14, I dated a guy. We were like, I don't know, just, like this. We really enjoyed each other, but we were young, and I understood we did things, but I'm glad I dated him. That's all I'm going to say, because after I dated him, I said that I would never let anybody treat me like that again. He just cheated on me, but, and we were just always like, he would break up, I would break up with him for cheating on me, and then he would want me back, that kind of high school thing. And then I would get back with him, and I would hear that he slept with some girl at some party, but he's like, no, I didn't. She slept under the covers. I slept on top of the covers. I'm like,
yeah.
Stupid. Like, come on. And then it just got, so I was like, okay. And then I learned quickly never to do that again. But you have to have those people because you need to know what kind of people are out there,
Right.
In terms of your business, what do you think is the biggest learning lesson that if you could tell 20-year-old you or 25-year-old you, what would you wish you would have known then that you know now?
It's a tough one because I don't wish that I knew anything back then because then I wouldn't be where I am today. I think my 20-year-old self did exactly what I needed to do at that time to get to where I am. And nothing was perfect. And yeah, I made some mistakes, learning lessons, but I'm exactly where I want to be. And I don't know if I want my 60-year-old self to come down and tell me something and ruin things for me, because I think that's the exciting part is the unknown and, and growing and, I don't know. I don't dwell on the past. I look at the past for examples, but I don't dwell on it or wish anything were different. I'm exactly what I did back then, what I'm supposed to be doing now. So if my 40-year-old self came to me at 20, I'd be like, get back in the future, you old woman, go back. Go back. Because you obviously are doing well. So get back and I'll see you soon.
I'll see you in 20 years. No,
yes,
that makes
exactly.
sense. That makes sense. I think that for me, in terms of like running a business, I always tell people, I just wish I would have known the power of trusting your instincts more when I was younger. Cause that's one thing that like, I would do what you were like supposed to do in business instead of just like trusting my gut. And now I just don't give a crap what anyone else says.
Yeah, but you learned that, we all have
exactly.
to learn.
Yeah.
You have to learn it. And you have to learn
I
it
was
the
really hard
way.
on myself and I had to learn to go in my 20s and I did. And now I'm more relaxed and calm about things, but I used to be a lot more uptight. And it doesn't make it wrong or bad for me being uptight back in the day. It's just, it's just something I wanted to change about myself.
Yeah. It's just more relaxing not being uptight. But it's something that you learn over time. It's kind of like wine. Like when you first start drinking alcohol, you're like, this is disgusting. And then like you get into then you start drinking wine and you get into the nuances and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Or you start drinking the cheap wine and then you get into the fancy wine.
Treat yourself to that $16 bottle.
I don't know. These are cheaper than that. I didn't get it for $4.
I pride myself on finding like that perfect under $10 bottle of wine at Trader Joe's. It is such an entertainment to me to try and find it. Like,
Yeah, if you can do it, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Though I do love
put it in a fancy cup and no one has to know.
Yeah. So that being said, I love the super expensive wines from Napa too. Like I'm such a sucker for like a $200, $300 cab with all their like, it's like drinking a symphony in my opinion.
Oh yeah. A good wine there's nothing like a delicious wine.
Yeah.
Well, Sienna, if people want to catch up with you and what you're going to be doing going forward in your travels, where's a good place for them to connect with you online?
Definitely not Facebook because Facebook hates me and just constantly blocks me and I'm just can't even use them. I'm on block right now and I know as soon as I get off a block, they're going to block me again because they did that last month and then so I'm on a constant block with them. So I would say Instagram is your best place and just my website and you can find, everything that I do. I'm constantly traveling, not now, but
do you have a newsletter you send out with like updates of all the stuff you
I do a newsletter every week on my Naughty Girl website for my fashion one. But my fashion website, even if you go to that one for the clothing, even if you're not into the clothing, I still talk about my travel updates and what's going on and parties that I'm hosting. So
and the fashion is that like Naughty Girl clothing or is it some other brand name?
No, it's Naughty Girl.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can go to naughtygirl.com. Just Sienna Sinclaire. Just Google me, YouTube. I do YouTube videos too. I got banned from YouTube and I had to open a new account. So I just constantly get banned.
It seems such like overkill because I'm like, you're just so lovely. Like if YouTube just got to know you, they wouldn't ban you.
Yeah, I know. And it's so upsetting because I had like over 10 million views, like on,
Yeah.
it was really upsetting. And I had 77,000 followers, and now I'm trying to get back, and I have like 180 maybe, and barely any views. It's just hard when you get used to, a certain something,
Julia and I do stuff in the cannabis industry with the Green Light District, and most of the bigger brands in the cannabis industry have like a backup Instagram page because they know they're going to get deleted. So it's like they have one, and then they have a second one for when the first one gets deleted,
That's
so they
a lot
can
of
make
work.
that one.
Okay, so
it is a lot of work. Yeah, but it's very common for them to do it.
It's built. Well, me for Naughty Girl, I don't have to worry about Instagram. I don't know how it is with promoting cannabis, but Instagram, which is surprising because Facebook owns it, but luckily they haven't changed their rules. They do allow nudity. Like you could literally I could be butt naked right now, and all I have to do is draw 2 X's on my boobs, not even big ones, just little tiny ones, and a little X across my private area, and it would be fine. If I did that for Facebook, I would be down in a heartbeat. They would have taken it down. So thankfully for Instagram, and thank gosh for Twitter.
Yes, right.
That's
well,
where all my naughty stuff is.
Twitter doesn't care. I think also one of the things that I found super valuable for us that allows us to get free from the Facebook gods is our own email list. Because if you have direct contact to customers, they, it's like they can shut down your page. And you're like, that's cool. I still got 3,000 people on my email list.
No, email is your best anyway, because those are your quality people. Those are the people who want you in their inbox. And if you want someone in your inbox, that's quality. And also, I have my meetup group of 10,000 people. So.
Oh, fun!
That's like a whole nother newsletter, email list.
I was gonna say, is Meetup primarily how you run your events then?
Yeah, without Meetup, I don't even think I'd be where I am today with my naughty parties, because I started it 6 years ago. I just was trying to find other ways to promote myself without having to get keep paying for PR. And I discovered Meetup, and I don't know if you know what Meetup is, but there's anything, if you like cats, it's on there. If you like flying kites, there's a group for it. There's a group for everything. And there's a group for being naughty. And I'm on there with 10,000 people. I'm the biggest naughty meetup group in the world.
I've only ever used Meetup in a city. Like, is there a national Meetup, or is it you are Meetup Los Angeles for your?
I Meetup Los Angeles.
Okay.
I have people flying into my parties. I've had people from all over the world come to my parties. I always ask people how they find me when they come to my party. I ask when you join, but when you come, I'm more interested in talking to you and how you found out. And people tell me. One guy I did a boat tour to Catalina Island. It was Buccaneer days, so we all dressed up as pirates and got on and naughty crazy, and then got off at Catalina and partied and naughtiness. And I asked him how he found me, and he said, well, I was listening to this radio show that you were promoting your event, and he lived I'm just going to make this up, but let's say Minnesota. So it was on the other side. And he goes, I heard it. I bought a ticket. I jumped in my car and I drove down here in a day.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, okay.
You're like, no pressure. Hope you're having fun.
I know, hope you get lucky, because it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get lucky at my party, especially if you're a single guy.
Right.
And then I've had other people just say they just flew in. One guy came from Singapore, and I have people from all over, so you never know.
Yeah. Now, in terms of when you throw your parties, are they always and you mentioned a boat, are they always like at private venues? Like, or have you done them at like, I don't know, like a club or something?
Yeah, I've done clubs. I've done nightclubs, but they're always, when they're done at nightclub, they're not naughty.
They're just like flirty.
Yeah, you just come with clothes on, or women, whatever you want to wear, and you just come and meet people. It's more just a meet and greet and getting to know the events that I host for people that might feel a little like, oh, I don't know about the people. Are the people creepy? And then they see me and they're like, yeah, they're creepy. But yeah, just to get to kind of know the group and to realize that we're not creepy. We're nice people. And then that might help them to come to another naughty party, or that's just their naughty level, meaning that's the only parties they're ever going to come to. There's some people who can't afford my events, and they let me know that, and they just say they're just happy coming to those events. So And sometimes people save up. So.
You can ask about the price point?
Yeah, out of curiosity, how much should somebody invest in an event? Like, what would it cost them?
Well, my events are not that expensive compared to some that I've seen in the swinger world that are 500 or more. It all depends on the event. You know, I have like my new yoga, which is $50, but it's 30 minutes of a class, and then it's 3 to 4 hours of hanging out at my pool, you know, drinking, mingling with other people for $50. I mean, when people complain about $50, it was like, whoa, okay. And then just because of all that you get. And then if you want to come to maybe just like a regular party, it could be $100. But if we get more detailed with entertainment, because I provide, my parties are more not just saying, hey guys, come to my house and wear a mask and I'm going to have an EDM DJ playing. I hate EDM music, by the way. That's why I was joking about it. And that's most parties. And then just mingle, and I'm going to charge $500. That's what some people do. And you're like, wow, just $500. Mine's all about making the events interactive. So you can come to my events and not be naughty if you want to. Some people just come because they love my entertainment so much. My events are all about immersion. So you'll come in and you can interact with the staff. Sometimes there might be a skit going on that you have to figure something out where you have to talk to. I did that for Halloween. We had to figure out the murder mystery. And one room might have performers going on, you know, with a woman who's performing sexually or just doing a burlesque show, or a magician in another room. I mean, or a fortune teller. There's just something going on. So I have some people, this way it makes them feel comfortable coming to my events and not feeling pressured to be naughty. And then I sometimes have dinners, you know, and the dinners are going to cost more because I have to get the food. So the dinners can be anywhere from $250 to $300, but average my events are about $200.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. I mean, you're going to spend that much for a night out at a theater. You know what I mean?
If you get dinner and you go get drinks, and you're just not going to get that type of event. You're not going to go to a theater and there's going to be people naked and having sex.
Exactly.
Right. It's not going to happen. So you're getting all this naughtiness, you know, on top of all this entertainment too.
So fun. Well, I think you just have the most amazing naughty brand. I think it's so fun, and I've loved following you over the years. Yeah. Can you remind people one more time where they can find you on Instagram if they want to connect?
Yeah, you can do Sienna Sinclaire, and then from there you can just find everything about me. Because I also list my other brands and website on there. Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds great. Well, thanks for joining us, Sienna. It was great talking to you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Oh my gosh. I think she's such a great businesswoman in this naughty field. And she is such a great ambassador for that lifestyle because she just loves it. She clearly loves it.
She does great. My Sienna origin story is when we produced our first Planned Parenthood fundraiser in LA at the Magicopolis with the Dollface Dames. She gave away her books in the gift bags.
I had to go pick up those books.
I remember. It was like over 100 books, and they were very heavy. That's what I remember.
It's a very cool book. It's a very cool book. You should check it out. The Dollface Dames are actually in it, I believe, the LA version.
I think they are, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
What's funny, she has a Vegas book too, and I know that kind of everyone's big beef with Vegas is that we're the Sin City, but there's actually like less naughty stuff to do in Vegas than there is in other cities, or at least unusual nutty stuff. Right. There's strip clubs. If you want to drive out of town, there's the brothels.
There's the Bunny Ranch, yeah.
Yeah, but like in town, there's the Swingers Club, but there's not like a whole lot in between. So it's an interesting Vegas fact. I'd love to do one of her tours, though. I think it sounds fun, like her audio naughty walking tours.
Yeah, I know. Especially like the older history, I think would be a lot of fun to explore. You know, and she's absolutely right about art. All art is about sex after a while. Like, you know,
right.
It's, it's always so funny when you start like discovering that the things that are supposed to be, because like, you know, at the end, the people who could fund most art were like clergy. And then like there's all these sexy subtexts when you start getting into art history classes where they're like, this is actually this. And you're like, what?
I know.
You're like, we're in a church. What are you talking about?
Well, it is true. I mean, as you know, Pinups on Tour goes to super small town America, and the number of old brothels that I've performed in that are now theaters, I mean, probably 50. And like, that might be an underestimate. And I've so many stories of, you know, prostitutes chained to radiators and things just to scare you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, you did some traveling last week. How was it going out into the great big world?
It was nice. I went to Seattle. It was like 40 degrees cooler than it is here in Las Vegas. So that was really nice. I saw my family. We went hiking. I took my dog. It was nice.
Yeah. It's just, it's traveling, you know, with this whole pandemic thing is very interesting, but it's so nice to be able to get out of your bubble, even in the world of social distancing, because I have to say, you know, one of our friends posted on Facebook, she went to go visit her sister, and like, she's like, hey, I'm traveling, but I am social distancing. That doesn't mean that you can't do both. So
yeah. I saw that post. You know, I think she's taken kind of a similar stance to me. That's like, hey, if I'm not coming into contact with anyone that's high risk, and I'm making smart choices when I travel and wearing a mask and doing the things, do I really have to stop my life?
Right.
And I guess that's, yeah.
I mean, I think that as someone who's like, you know, I'm visiting with my family, and they're a little bit more high risk because they're older. It's like, you just have to play it smart. Like, you just have to be like, okay, we know right now, we know what can make it safer. Let's try and make it as safe as possible. And then also be a big girl if something happens, because you know the risks.
Well, it's interesting because Pinups on Tour is starting back shows next week. This week. Oh my gosh, this week on the 25th in Alpena, Michigan. It's sold out already. But we're starting back touring, and it's interesting because we have all these new policies with Pinups on Tour: masks, temperature checks, hand sanitizers, social distancing. We basically like want it to be as safe as possible. And since none of us are doctors, we're just listening to what the medical people are saying and trying to do those things. So pretty much all of our venues have been like, yeah, cool, chill, whatever. Right. Yeah, whatever. This is the world we're living in. One venue acted like we were stepping on their constitutional rights, and like they want to like pull the show. And I was like, okay, well, that's really your choice, I guess. Right. Even though their contract does say that they guarantee the safety and health of our performers and will implement any additional riders that the producers see necessary, that is in their contract. But I didn't need to point that out to them. If they don't want people to wear masks at their venue, then like, you don't get out of town performers.
Right. And you don't get ones that have the restrictions, whatever they are. Like, you know, they can hire people that are okay with not wearing masks, but like, those people have a chance of potentially passing on a disease a little bit more than the other people.
Yeah, for me, it's a matter of like, our performers come from all over. So it's not just for the safety of like us as performers, it's for the sake of our audience. Like, we don't want to expose you to anything. All of us are young. We might be asymptomatic. You know, we had a very good friend who was asymptomatic she's now going on her third positive COVID test.
Wow.
And she's,
and her boyfriend was asymptomatic too. She was living with her boyfriend. Like,
but he's cleared up. She's like one of those, like what they call like super carriers, I guess.
Oh man.
Which is really unfortunate.
It's really unfortunate because this girl is like the nicest girl in the world. And I'm sure she feels horrible about it because she is so sweet. Like,
so it's one of those things where you're just like, this thing none of us understand how this is working. Yeah. So like, let's just do this. But you know, people like their rights, and I respect everybody's own opinions during this. I just would like my opinions. You know, I'm like, cool, you don't have to have us, but guess what? For the foreseeable future, this is, I don't even know how long. I don't know if it's a year, 2 years, 6 months. I have no idea how long we're going to have to do this for.
Right. Well, we're not doctors, so like don't listen to any medical advice we say. But like it seems like we're doing it for a while because we've been doing it for a while already. So it's like
I'm thrilled to get back to performing. We have a private event booked for the following week. I mean, life is coming back.
Yeah.
It is coming back, and people are hiring us, and we are grateful. So
yes.
I was actually talking with our team about kind of ways. I was like, okay, so what's going to come back quicker? I'm like, I bet weddings are going to come back quicker because they're private parties. I was like, let's go after wedding planners. I was like, because I mean, you just have to like be strategic right now. There's still work. It's just not the same work that we all were doing. You know, the likelihood a big convention's going to come into Vegas and spend $50K on an opening act is pretty slim right now because, you know, nobody's getting that many people in one room. Though one of our event planners just got a second part-time job because we don't have events right now. She's at night, she's being a hostess at a restaurant at the Venetian. And she said it was literally like when she's at the Venetian, she's like, I don't see anything other than masks that would indicate it's anything other than business as usual. Like she's like, people aren't social distancing. People aren't.
It is very interesting, having been in California almost 3 weeks now, to see the variance of the degree of the masks in the places I've gone. For example, I was in Los Angeles yesterday, and I drove down, and like in the Bay Area, people are very cognizant of masks. The first place I stopped to get gas, there wasn't a single person wearing a mask. And I was just like, what is this? Like, none of the attendants were wearing it. Like, what? And I mean, granted, it was like early, you know, I had gotten up very early. So it was probably like 5 a.m. So maybe they weren't, but like, I wasn't the only one getting a bottle of water. Like, there were other people there and nobody was wearing a mask. And I was like, what is this? Like,
I said that about, I was in Seattle and people were so freaking compliant. My parents still aren't going out much, but we went on several hikes.
Right.
And even when we went on the hikes, people put their masks on to walk past you on the trail and then took their mask off. And I told my dad, I was like, I don't think this would happen in another part of the country. It's just the IQs in Seattle are so high that these people are like, well, if this is what the smart people are doing. Like,
the town that my mom and my aunt live in, which is Benicia, they have a very, very nice community pool. It's like gorgeous. Like, you know, it's like saltwater filtered and it's like 24 lanes and they have it down to a science. We've gone swimming a couple times where it's like you have an hour block, you go swimming for 45 minutes. They let people in, they do a temperature check. There's a chair in front of the lane. You put your stuff on the chair. You swim in your lane. They blow the whistle. Everybody gets out at the same time. And then they come and they spray it all down. And I've said, like, it's like, it's almost like it's a communist country, but in the best way possible. Because everybody's doing exactly what they're supposed to. Like the whistle blows and everybody stops. And they do what they're supposed to so they can enjoy the pool because everybody wants to keep swimming in the pool because like
there's a level of my type A personality that's really enjoying these new you know, I'm like, I have to make an appointment everywhere I go. Oh, people have to stay away from me. Oh, like there's rules in place. I love a good rule that makes sense. I don't like dumb rules.
Right.
But I like good rules that make sense. So I'm like, my personality type really isn't that bothered by it. But even in the Vegas airport, the number of people that were like openly annoyed with the fact they had to put a mask on to get on the airplane. Yeah. You're like, you're in Vegas. Guess what? You had to wear it all weekend. You got to wear it on the airplane.
Right.
You chose to take this vacation. Nobody made you take this vacation right now.
Right. And you chose to fly because there's you make a big choice when you go on an airplane versus like hopping in a car and doing a day trip. You know, it's like that's the next level. Then you're going to have to do some more stuff because like that's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. But I don't want to talk too much about it, but I think I'm going to be traveling this week, and I'll talk more about it.
Yes.
When I'm back, but it's definitely going to be, it's another one. This one's a little different because I'm going to be around people that I don't think are going to be. I think I'm going to look like the crazy, liberal everywhere I go.
I mean,
and you know what? I've accepted it. I've been like, that's fine. I'm fine with it. I don't care.
I'm hopping on a plane back to Florida on Friday. So it's like, everybody's like, do you want to go back? And I'm like, yeah, I want to go back, but I'm not going out. Like, I'm getting my restaurant eating in here in California where you are, California is only restaurants outside now. You have to dine outside.
Yeah.
Where like Florida, because it's also the middle of the summer and it's super hot, but like, they don't care. So it's like, So it's like, I'm having dessert every night because I'm not going out for a couple months at least. So.
Yeah, you enjoy it while you're there.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's like the whole point. That's the whole point. But Kat, you found some really interesting stories this week. I'm going to start with probably like the more serious of the stories. And we do a lot of work with veterans in the military community. And this story I thought was really interesting because it's something that I have talked to friends who have been injured about, but I had never thought about the extent that it affects people.
Yes. Yeah. This one came from Vice on their Broadly, which, is the sexy female part of it. And it is an article about what happens if you're in war and your genitals are injured in some way or another. Now, go ahead.
No, I was going to say kind of the shocking thing to me about this was I didn't realize that 13% of all injuries in Afghanistan involved some kind of genital damage.
Yes.
And just to give a comparison, previous wars were around 2 to 5%.
Right. Now, a lot of this has to do with the IEDs, which are the improvised explosive devices. And primarily it happens to people who are in the EOD programs, which is the explosive ordnance disposal. I never remember the O of it.
Yeah. The bomb guys.
The bomb guys, the Hurt Locker guys, which, by the way, I am friends with one. And he, we've had conversations about, people who are maimed or injured. And because he's in this division, he's like, all of my friends are injured because you're the bomb guy. Like, this is the one area.
We do the Navy Special Operations Foundation every year, which is the EOD guys for the Navy. Mm-hmm. And the whole night is jokes about people missing limbs or being blind. Like, these guys have accepted that it is a potential of their job.
Right.
But I don't think when you're thinking about injury, I think you might think about losing an arm. You might think about losing a leg. I don't think you think I might not be able to have sex with my wife again.
Right. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the bomb is exploding up, right? Whereas if you go back to World War I and World War II, it was bullets and they were looking for kill shots. So they were going for the head or the heart,
It's also the shrapnel in the IEDs. There's no way to control where that stuff goes off.
Exactly.
And it's from underneath you. So
this interview was with a couple that have now been married for 9 years. The guy's name is Aaron. The woman's name is Kat. And he's in the Army, or he was in the Army. And he got injured. They've now changed some of the protocols. So the injuries primarily happened a little earlier. So you get from 2000, I think it said from
2010 to
2009, 2011 is when most of these guys were getting injured all the time. This gentleman got injured in 2011 on September 7th. Mm-hmm. And he lost, it destroyed his legs. They said destroyed, so I'm not quite sure what that meant. Part of his hands, his shoulders had shrapnel, and he ripped his scrotum and only had 2/3 of one testicle. And it's all about the issues. Like, you know, they're a very open couple. They're very good at communicating. Like the amount of times he said his wife was hot in the article, I thought was amazing. Like it was just like, that was the closer of the article. He's like, my wife is fucking hot. I fucking love her.
What I thought was interesting is kind of, so outside of the emotional damage of having genital trauma, right? There's legitimate hormonal differences that happen when you lose your testicles that affect performance and desire, right? So they had to work through those issues.
And then also the meds, like, you know, you're on so many meds, and like, if anybody's ever dealt with a family member that's on like 5 or 6 medications, it's like everything messes up with something. And usually one of the first things that it messes up with is your sex drive. And like people get puffy on medication, and there's like a lot of side effects that you don't even think of that don't make you sexy, you know?
Yeah. And they, on top of his genital damage, you know, they talk about they were dealing with like twitching amputations afterwards.
Right.
Kind of figuring out that what they said is it took them about a year to realize that disabled sex isn't the same as normal sex, but they can still find ways to have sex and be intimate and do things together.
Right.
I thought it was kind of sad. They were telling in the article, they were saying that they had to keep bringing it up to their doctors. It wasn't something that their doctors were even bringing up with them, which, as a doctor, knowing somebody suffered that kind of injury, I would imagine that would be like, of course, a big question they have. Of course, something they want to talk about, but it's still a taboo topic.
Yeah, I will say that, like, one of the things about, like, as a broad generalism is that, like, most people who are in the military, and by the nature of the military, the majority of the people are men, is that they are very sexy by nature. They are like very verbal,
testosterone filled.
Absolutely. And they're willing to talk about things that like a lot of maybe more vanilla America doesn't talk about. So like they would bring it up, and the doctors who like maybe were more reserved in some way, like one of the things the wife said over and over again is like, there needs to be literature in the room when we're having these conversations, and the doctors need to bring it up. We shouldn't be the one who brings it up because this is a natural part of biology that's going to make everybody happy. We all know the statistics on like having a sex life versus not having a sex life. You biologically are going to do better. Like, you know, not to say that you're if you don't want to have sex, you're allowed to have sex, not have sex, but biology, if you want to have sex, you're going to feel better if you get to have sex. And yeah. And it's like, they were very clear. They said the one thing that they did say that I thought was interesting was that like, they're now 9 years into a relationship. And what happens is like, if you're sleeping with the same person over and over again, after a while, you know, people's routines. And like, that's why people start like going to, you know, sex parties or strip clubs or go to a store and buy some toys. And they said like, the thing is that we are already limited based on what we have. So it's like, it's not like you get to be as exploratory as someone that has all of the equipment because, you know, they're already limited.
Yeah. It's a good article. I encourage people to check it out and just maybe spend a little time talking with your friends who are injured, or maybe if this is, it's interesting because I've definitely talked with my friends and had conversations about what it was like, what dating was like, what it was back, you know, some of my severely injured friends. And it is one of the number one things that when they're sitting in the hospital injured, they think, I'm never going to fuck another girl again.
Yes.
Doctors need to do a better job of dealing with that fear and letting them know that there are people like Kat and Aaron who have figured it out.
Right. Yeah. We have a mutual friend who's an amputee, and he always jokes that within a week of getting out of the hospital when it happened, he'd learned how to masturbate and open a beer. Those were like the two things he had to master because he's like, I needed to get these down. And what they also said in the article is that like so much of it is biology. You have to play around with it. Like they were, you know, they had to have sex to see if the biology worked, you know, like when he was first getting a hard on the penis was getting stuck on the catheter because the catheter was still in the body.
Yeah.
And that, like, you know, he was masturbating and blood was coming out. And the doctor's like, no, that's good. It means things are moving forward. But, like, you know,
you
like,
still don't want to see that. Yeah.
Right, I'm sure I'm not a guy, but if I was coming, I don't think I would want to see blood coming out of my penis. Like,
I mean, it's not even enjoyable as a female when you have your period and you know what's going on. So
right, exactly.
it's just, you know, it's one of those things. But
Yeah.
It was a really interesting article, and it definitely opened up my brain and got me thinking about how we need to care about our American heroes' sexual health when they come back.
Yes. And it also made me so grateful. Like, I read that, I was like, oh my God, I'm very grateful that, like, all of my equipment works. I'm so, you know, it's one of those things I think you don't, like anything, you don't realize what you've got until it's gone. And then you have to play with a whole nother system of constraints.
Yeah, well, definitely. Okay, so if I was to go get another master's, it would probably be in
sex therapy.
Sex therapy, because I find the physical things that stop people from wanting to have sex, or the mental things, like, they just shut off that part of their life, and then and it's just so sad to me. So if I was to go get another one to learn how to actually physically help people, because like, there were physical things they had to work through, but it's totally worth the effort. You know, it's kind of like, you know, for me, it's like, I hear a lot about older women who are like, sex isn't comfortable when I get older. And I'm like, okay, great. So how do you make it comfortable? Because, like, are you just expecting your husband not to have sex for the rest of your life? Because that's a super unrealistic goal. It's not a realistic goal. So we got to find something else in the middle. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I feel like getting another master's. I don't know.
Well, someday. I mean, maybe, you know, especially now.
I love talking about sex.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because we have a podcast. So
I really do. I love it. I think it's fascinating. When Sienna was talking about how, like, she's always had this fascination with the naughty, I was like, that was me. I was that kid that was like, I wanted to watch every Real Sex on HBO. I wanted to watch every documentary about the AVNs. I wanted to. It's not that I wanted to watch porn. It's that I wanted to learn about the porn stars and learn about their brains and the way they think. Like, I've always just been fascinated with it. And I guess it's one of those things where it's like, you manifest what you spend a lot of time thinking about. You know, it's like, I manifested the AVNs with you, and, like, all these things.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I pride myself on with this podcast is helping people understand that people who work in the sex industry are not dumb bimbos that, like, have no other options. A lot of times, like, people who get into these things, it's like they like to play on the fringes. They don't want the vanilla life, whatever that is. You know, they want to see what's out there, whatever their choices, from, like, camming to working in a strip club, which is the segue to our next article. Yes.
So I've always been amazed. So Kat has worked as a traditional stripper. I have not. But one of the things that has always amazed me about strip club culture is, one, the amount of money that these women can bring in, but two, how little money these women actually have, a lot of them. And this article on the Daily Mail kind of digs into that and some of the reasons and the culture of these women stripping at a world famous Magic City strip club in Atlanta.
Yes. Now, there's a couple of caveats I want to put on this. One, this article is very true about a lot of strippers, is that the money comes in and the money comes out and they don't respect it. So it's like, it was like, especially when I was in Vegas, like, you know, everybody's, like, hustling for their rent money, like, the day before the end of the month, even though, like, some people make, like, as this article says, like, $8,000 in a day, but then, like, they go and they spend it. Like, it's not, you know, it's in and it's out. Now, that being said, I have met a lot of very smart strippers that go the other route. Like, I remember very early in my stripping career talking to a lady, and she's like, I own 7 houses, because she would she would make her down payment, she'd buy a house, she'd rent it out, and, like, she's all over the country, because, like, you know, so this is a type of stripper, and it is a very specific type of stripper, but it exists.
Yes. And this was for, just to be clear, this was the reason these cameras were let into the strip club was for a Channel 5, which is a British, I believe, documentary.
Yeah, I think it's one of the BBCs. I never understand the BBCs, but I know they have numbers.
So the Channel 5, they have a show called The Sex Business, and this is an episode in that. Just so if anyone wants to go check it out, that's the original. That's where we're getting this information.
Yes, and also Atlanta is primarily a Black club, strip club area. You know, and Black clubs are different than white clubs. They're different in the way that they tip. They're different in their clientele. They're different in the type of girls that they look for. Like I always joked, like, you know, I could do a million pull tricks in front of a Black guy, and like I'd get like $2. And then there's a girl, and she was amazing. She's amazing, but she had one of the biggest asses I've ever seen in my life. And she would go on stage and she would walk home with trash bags full of dollar bills. Because like they throw them on.
Want to make it rain.
They want to make it rain, and they just want to watch an ass shake. It's a different, you know, and it's not like a racist thought. I mean, I guess like, you know, there's stereotypes involved, but like this is something that you'll see in certain areas. Also, Atlanta traditionally is, I believe, fully nude too.
I was about to say Atlanta's a fully nude city, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah,
which is also a different culture than you know, ones that have certain laws, like, you know, fully nude versus gentlemen's clubs and all that stuff. But it's and they're all you know, they're all different in their own ways. And Atlanta, because of this, like, you know, the people that they mentioned in the article, they're like, you know, Rihanna's coming in and Kevin Hart's coming in and like Kanye, but like P. Diddy, which are all African-American celebrities that have grown up in this concept of making it rain, which to me is also a very like just it's, you know, it's a different aspect of a club.
So it's the way this British article characterizes hip hop culture, this concept of the videos that we've all seen, you know, the rap videos. It's that kind of culture creating that kind of atmosphere. And these strippers make, you know, most of them don't make $8,000 a night. Right. In the article, most of them said like $1,000 to $4,000 is probably a closer guess. But these women, a lot of them are making $100,000 plus a year.
Yeah.
And you know, I kind of wonder where the producers came from on this, because they did highlight some women in the article, like one that was making like $8,000 a month doing twerking videos online, so she didn't have to come back to the club, which is like smart on her, right? And then there was another woman who started a shoe line with another stripper because she realized stripper shoes were so uncomfortable,
which they are.
And now she has a successful shoe line. So they did highlight some women that were making different choices, but definitely the producers, you could tell the producers kind of had a slant. They wanted to uncover these stories. They also kind of talked about the humble beginnings of a lot of girls, which I thought was slightly patronizing to say that all strippers come from a abusive, neglectful, or somehow damaged background. A lot of girls I know that strip don't come from that background. But some of the women do.
And it's true. You can start to, like, you know, we talked about this with the Romanian gypsy article. You can see where the reporter's slant is, like where they're, you know, that chick was not into arranged marriages. I was talking to my mom here, and I was like, there was part of me that was like, you know, I was like, wouldn't it be so nice if somebody could find me a mate? That I didn't have to spend all my time looking, like that somebody like you your entire life, you're like, you're going to marry this person. And you're like, cool. Yeah. I don't have to worry about that. Like, you know, somebody knows my energy. They know his energy. They figured we balance each other out. Like
I've thought about a matchmaker at this point, because I honestly just don't have the energy anymore for these apps. Like, it's like, it's not even fun for me. And if it's not fun for me, I'm not going to attract somebody with the right energy, right? Like if you're going through like a job, it's just, so I was like, I need to do something to like shake this up or get me excited about it. And my mom was literally like, what about a matchmaker? You know, and I was like, I don't know. Aren't matchmakers traditionally Jewish? Like, I guess I could marry a Jewish man. I'm not going to become Jewish, but I could marry a Jewish man.
You actually, I've always liked the Jewish guys you date because they're smart and they're funny and they know how to handle their money because like they were taught to handle it. I mean, I know this is every stereotype. Every stereotype in the world is coming out, but there's a truth in stereotypes. Like,
wait, matchmaking is traditionally a Jewish art form.
Yes.
So the really good matchmakers in LA, like they come from a Jewish heritage usually.
Yes.
Or the really good ones out of New York. So if you want to go to like a legit yenta who's going to get you like, you know, a great husband, then that's what you do. Yeah, so you can't help it zooming from our houses or
I know my mom's like asking me questions. I'm like, dude, you know I'm at a podcast.
It's okay, it happens. It's okay.
She's like, we gotta wrap this up. We got things to do. You're still on vacation.
Well, speaking of wrapping it up, but anyway, so
yes.
Either way, it is definitely a part of stripper culture to a certain level, but there are women who are making use of that money. And so I guess my advice is if you're going to be a stripper, take 50% of the money you make every night and save it.
Yes.
Like you'll be rich in no time.
there are a stripper, like I dance with a lot of girls that they save their dollar bills. So like, you know, it's like the VIP was like for their bills and then the dollar bills went into savings. Like there's all things like that. Another thing I want to bring up that I would love to interview at some point. I know a couple girls who grew up in stripper families and I find those fascinating because it's like the grandma stripped, the mom stripped, all the daughters are taught the art form and it's not considered bad. They're not broken. It's just like, this is the family industry and we know how to do it very well. And so there are so many different tales when it comes to strippers. And this is one tale, but there are others out there.
I do want to real quick while we're talking about older strippers, just do a quick shout out to somebody who's always been a friend of Working the Tease who passed this week. Big fat Fanny Annie.
Oh, okay.
Passed this week, and she was a stripper. I would say that was maybe mid-century, 60s, 70s.
Right, when burlesque and stripping were kind of the same thing before they split into others.
And she was known for being a very large woman.
Oh, yeah.
Her ex-husband was a Chippendales dancer. Her mouth was about as dirty as it could get. Her jokes were inspired by our next person, Mae West, the body broad, and the world lost a legend with her passing.
Yes.
She was sending her love, and
she was definitely an original. That is, she was a character, an original, and she was an awesome lady.
Yes.
But yes, this is our last story, and it's the biography of Mae West, who is like one of my favorite celebrities of all times.
Mae West is pretty amazing. She's definitely inspired Body Broad since her beginning. You found a really great biography on her. Was it through Vogue?
This one was through Vanity Fair, and it was in promotion. I guess Bette Midler produced a documentary on her that came out this year, and like she was the sexual gangster. They called her that. I was like, that's so true. Because like this woman, she grew up in vaudeville. She loved the light. She was a writer along with being a pretty face. She was a writer. And she didn't start making movies till she was 40. And she pretty much wrote all of her scripts. She didn't write the script, but she put in the one-liners that we all know Mae West for.
Yeah.
Where
is that in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me?
I mean, all of them, right? You know, I mean, like the woman just wrote so many one-liners. I could like literally read them off. But she just, you know, she kind of broke out. She helped. She was in a show in 1926 called Sex. That she ended up going to jail for indecency and corrupting the morals of the youth, of course.
God forbid.
And they put her on Roosevelt Island in New York, and she got to keep her own underwear. But other than that, she did 10 days in jail for being too sexy. She saved Paramount.
Yeah. What's crazy is like in the article, they said when she got taken to jail, this was 1927. She already had kind of a following at that point.
Mhm.
The women in jail were just so happy to have her there that it wasn't even like a bad experience for her in jail because the female wardens were like, you're a badass. Like, we're so happy to have you here. She's always had a tremendous amount of support from other women, which is one of the things that I think makes her so awesome.
She pretty much discovered Cary Grant. They mentioned this story, which is one of my favorites, was that go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like she like just saw him from across the thing, was like, that guy.
Yeah.
If he can talk, I want him.
And he this is the story. He literally walked in the room and he said, how do you do? And she said, I have my leading man, because she understood like what she needed. Like, you know,
she was an amazing producer at a time when women weren't producing, right?
Yeah.
So even though she wasn't like named as producer, she was setting her own costumes, like you said, writing a lot of her own lines, casting her own people, and setting her own pay, which is entirely unheard of for a woman during that time. My favorite thing that she did is the muscle male review.
Of course.
She's like the founder of like Thunder from Down Under. You know what I mean? The original. I guess she had a thing for muscular men. I do too. So me and her have that in common. But she had a thing for like muscular alpha men. So she took a bunch of bodybuilders and put them in a sexy male review that she hosted, which I would love to see that show. That sounds like my idea of heaven. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, she was doing shows up until like her 60s and her 70s. And like, she never apologized for her age. She was like, I'm sexy, whatever age. Like everything about her I love. Like she said that you should always trust a guy by their actions, not what they say. And then she never really, she wasn't into so much romance as she was into things that made her happy.
Yeah, she's a good role model. And I think when you look at the list of women that kind of quote her or look back on her, the Bette Midlers, the Dita Von Teeses of this world, you realize how big of a trailblazer she was. And the fact that women were going to jail for saying things about sex is just nuts, but that's what happened, you know?
But she was awesome. And everybody should like watch a documentary about her, watch her movies.
Well, we should check out the what's the name of the Bette Midler documentary?
The Bette Midler documentary is called Mae West, Dirty Blonde.
All right. Well, I need to find that. Hopefully she's going to like stream it or something with COVID going on.
Right.
But I'm going to like get online and see if I can find that, because I really do.
Yes.
I really enjoy learning about her. She just was doing things that women weren't doing. And she made it okay for a woman to enjoy sex, which was not okay in that time period. You did it because your husband wanted to. And she's like, I do it because I want to.
Right.
You know?
and she was okay with like, you know, like a lot of her characters were like madams and brothels. And she was okay with like the exchange of sex for diamonds or whatnot, whatever the trinkets or the baubles of the day was, which I think at that point was not really seen on television a lot. Or on movies a lot, because like, you know, it was like, hey, this is the lifestyle I chose and it makes me happy, you know?
Yeah. Well, she's amazing. I'm so happy that she's who we featured this week. Google her, watch YouTube videos. She's great. If you want to watch more YouTube videos, you can always check out our channel, WTT Burley, or our website, WTTburlesque.com. Find us on Instagram, Facebook at WTT Burley. If you're listening to us on iTunes, don't forget to rate and leave us a nice review. People are saying nice things, so if you want to be one of those, we would appreciate it.
We would love it. So
until next time, we have so many amazing guests coming up for you. We're going to be mixing up the schedule a little bit over the next couple of weeks, but we have great guests, amazing leaders in burlesque and art and the sex industry, and we can't wait to share them all with you.
Yes.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.